We're now joined by Jon Cooper, Ourlad's guide to the NFL draft. Jon, thank you very, very much. So on Friday, I think it is, the Colorado has their pro day. And, man, there's some dudes in that pro day, obviously Travis Hunter, Shedeur and company. How big of an audience do you think they'll have in Boulder?
Well, I think with, one of the top quarterbacks for sure, you're going to have anybody that needs a quarterback is going to be there. And Travis Hunter is a tremendous player. Everybody's going to be there because there's other players, obviously, that, could go in different rounds. Shiloh Sanders is a possible draft pick. So there's a number of guys, that are players. And, obviously seeing Travis Hunter in person is again, isn't going to hurt him for sure. He's a superior athlete. So I'm interested to hear how that goes. But again, they're running around in shorts. So you have to take it with a grain of salt.
Jon, a lot of Jaxson Dart hype right now. He's moving on up the charts. I mean, everybody's looking for that third quarterback. Where do you guys have him ranked? Knowing that, when teams get desperate for quarterbacks, they can maybe draft them a full round and a half too high.
Yeah, he's our third ranked quarterback, and we have him as a second, third round pick. That's our range that we use. He's a solid player. He's got solid mechanics. He's got a good arm. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes as far as the passing game is concerned. But what is concerning is his last three games. He didn't really rise to the occasion, and that's a little bit of a concern. Is it the mental makeup? What is the issue there as to why he played poorly in those last three games, including some key situations where they still could have got in the playoffs. And where there's some very bad throws, quite frankly. So he's obviously a good quarterback. He's obviously a skilled athlete. He's a skilled passer. So somebody is going to obviously take a chance on him, and he's going to get drafted. And he could be, before it's over, one of the better quarterbacks in this draft, or the better quarterbacks playing in the league before it's over. You just don't know until you get him in the room.
Jon, I mean, there's a lot of names that have been, talked about throughout this entire process as you've delved deeper. Who are maybe a name or two of guys that you really like? And maybe they're being talked about a little bit, but not to the extent of a Shedeur Sanders and, Cam Ward and all of these other big-time names that are being focused on. Who are some sort of out-of-the-box type of guys that you enjoy watching so far?
Well, we've enjoyed, talking about the quarterbacks in particular, at different times, we have enjoyed about 5, 6, 7 guys other than those top guys. We've seen what we call flash in guys like Milroe, Will Howard, Kyle McCord, Ewers, even Curtis Rourke and Riley Leonard and Tyler Shaw. I mean, all those guys that we have with draftable grades, including Dylan Gabriel, who's undersized, are guys that have flashed really solid play. And if you go back to, in history, just using Tom Brady as the obvious example of somebody who wasn't that highly regarded, third-round pick, ended up being one of the best quarterbacks in the history of the game. Now, do we see that in any of these guys? We're not, we don't have a crystal ball, so we can't say for sure. But we do see flashes of what we call redeeming qualities, things that they do really, really well, that if you can add to that skill set, they're going to be a solid player.
Jon, I know, again, and I always explain this when we have you on, what you guys do, you're not predicting who goes where. You rank the players, and like we brought up before, you might have 15 to 18 guys that are first-round grades, but you rank them. You don't say, hey, he's going to so-and-so. If I asked you this, how many quarterbacks do you have that have what you think are first-round grades? How many would be in the second round, and approximately how many in the third? Is that something you could break down?
That's far.
So much forgiveness. Wait, did you say forgiveness like far, or forgiveness like forgiveness? Forgiveness. Forgiveness. Forgiveness.
I'm hearing far.
Forgiveness. Like forgiveness. Forgiveness? Forgiveness.
I'm still hearing far, but whatever.
Introducing Stealth 2 with more carbon for more forgiveness.
Forgiveness. Just hit it.
Yeah, that's a valid question. For us right now, the only two that have first round grades are Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders. And, they're not real high first round grades. They would be more of mid first round grades, but understanding that the quarterback draft and the rest of the player draft is two different things. Ward and Sanders could very well be picks number 1 and 2. I don't know they will be, but they could be. And even though our grades don't show that. Now, after that, Jaxson Dart, the range that we have on him is somewhere in that second to third round, range as far as a grade is concerned. And after that, the next guy for us, and we're probably one of the few that have him this high, is Jalen Milroe as our fourth. And he and Will Howard, we have as third, fourth round grades. So we're moving down the line a little bit here. Kyle McCord, Quinn Ewers are the next 2 or 3. Actually, we got 4 guys that are 4 or 5 round. 4th, 5th is the range we've given them. And that's Howard, Ewers, Tyler Show, and Curtis Rourke.
What's your evaluation of the first round wide receivers like Golden, Ibuka, McMillan? Like maybe Luther Burden, I think would probably be the 4, right?
Yeah, I would say so. We have 4 guys in that first round, and you mentioned all 4 of them. The guy that is probably the most, maybe interesting of that group, is Golden to us. Because here's a guy that, is, how do you say it? He's not the biggest guy in the world, but yet he's got, he's a physical receiver. He can play outside. He can play slot. He's got good speed. And speed is a commodity that you really want to see in a wide receiver. And, that's what we like about him. Luther Burden is primarily a slot receiver. He didn't have the kind of year that last year we were projecting him as maybe a top 5 pick. This year we're thinking more mid to late first round at this point in time. And he's a slot receiver. So some teams that are looking for an outside receiver and they want to draft him high aren't going to look at him. So that could cause him to slip a little bit in the draft. McMillan, that's the best guy in the draft. He's got height, he's got speed, he's got route running ability, and he's got playmaking skill. So that's the kind of guy, that's the kind of receiver you want, in your room for sure.
John, I think I've asked you about a lot of the Big 12 running backs. I don't know that I've asked you about Devin Neal of Kansas. And so between Scadaboo and R.J. Harvey, and the list kind of goes on. But your thoughts on Devin Neal out of KU, if any?
Well, he's a guy that's got reasonably good speed. We got him in a 4.58, so he's not a burner. He runs with good lean power. He's got some agility in traffic. He's not just a plotter. We see him as in that 4th, 5th round range. We've got a 4th round grade on him. We think that's where he's probably going to go in a great year of running backs. He's a solid football player. He does most things well, including catch the ball. We think he's one of the top 15 running backs on our list. Let's put it that way. Top 15 or 20 running backs in a class that we think is very strong.
The defensive line with Abdul Carter and then obviously Graham from Michigan. Nolan is obviously a highly rated defensive lineman, and then Harmon from Oregon, not including, I'm not using the edge rushers because there's 3 or 4 or 5 of them too. Carter, that's kind of what he does, but how does he compare, in your opinion? And it's obviously Penn State, Micah Parsons, Penn State. Are they similar?
Yes. They both were off-the-ball linebackers at one time in their career, and Micah Parsons played both, his senior year. And you saw a little bit of that with Abdul Carter. He was just learning how to play on the edge this year. And by the middle of the season, he was tremendous as an edge defender. And he plays on the edge with the instincts of a linebacker. So he can chase across the field. He's not only going to be a good pass rusher in our minds, he's a guy that is going to make plays against the run, and he's got very good range against the run, not only on the outside setting the edge, what edge rushers do, but he's going to be able to sift back inside and make plays that way as well. Good chase player, too. He plays with a good motor, and we really, really like him. And, we weren't all that excited about that move to the edge early in the season. In fact, halfway through the year, I wouldn't say we were down on him, but we didn't see him developing as a pass rusher. A light bulb went on in the second half of the season, because if you watch the second half, he really learned, he picked it up, and that bodes well for him, is how well he picked that up. He's a versatile player. He's going to be able to do a lot of things. If you want to play him in the 3-4 and drop him off in coverage, and those teams that play the 3-4 under defense, as a buck linebacker or whatever you call him, a Leo, he's going to be a really good player. So he'll fit in any scheme.
Is Omarion Hampton first round good?
Yes. Make it simple. We like him.
Yeah, I'm curious because, we talked before, you guys don't think that Genty's getting past the Bears, especially given the fact that Ben Johnson is their coach and they like to use running backs. I mean, they use 2 running backs better than anybody has maybe in 20 years in the NFL. So for teams that would want one, the next option would be Omarion Hampton?
Yes, that's what we think. Now, we're not the end all on that, but that's just our opinion. We think it's a great year for running backs. We think Travion Henderson is a great back. We think Judkins from Ohio State, the inside and outside guys, we think they're great. Dylan Sampson, at 5'8", we think he's a terrific speed back with great agility in traffic. We really like him. And Scatabo is a different kind of guy. He's just a hard-nosed, old-school football player. Caleb Johnson, we go on and on about these running backs. And for that reason, we could see a team passing on Genty early and taking one later if they need a running back. And if they really need a position that's not that deep, like the offensive line is a little shaky overall, you might want to take one of those really good offensive linemen early. There's a thought process that we have that maybe the Bears at 10, even if Genty's there, might pass. So we're going to go back and forth with mock drafts and show it 2 or 3 different ways, both in the guide and, on a mock draft that's going to come up on the website in a couple of weeks.
So he's the unquestioned number 1 running back, but there are enough at the top of the draft, let's say 3 to 4, 5, as you mentioned, that you can risk not taking him and getting them like maybe with a second first-round pick or somewhere else?
Well, I don't think he's going to get past the Cowboys. Let's put it that way. I say it's possible he'll get past the Bears. I think that's unlikely too. Seeing the offensive mind that you've got running that team right now. But you never know. It just depends on how bad they want to protect Caleb Williams. They want Caleb Williams to develop into a great football player, and they want to make sure he's not just looking for rushmen as he's dropping back to pass. So, I could see them taking a great offensive lineman if they feel that someone like Campbell or Membo is a great offensive lineman over Genty, because there's a lot of value in those guys, especially, when you need depth and you're really thin there. There are other really, really good running backs in this draft.
Jon Cooper, Ourlad's Guide to the NFL Draft with us. Tedero McMillan. And he's got the size. He's got the speed. He obviously was dynamic at Arizona. Who does he remind you of? I'm not sure you're good into not good into it, but does he remind you of somebody else that came out similar to him?
Not really for me. He's I'm sure there are some guys, that we've comped him with, but offhand, I don't have a great comp for him. I think any one of your tall receivers that have played in this league that can run great routes and have decent speed, that would be a good enough comp for me, as far as that goes. He's not Marvin Harrison Jr. He's a top receiver in this draft, but we don't think he's got the skill set of Marvin Harrison Jr. He doesn't quite have the same speed. He's a big kid. He's a big route runner. He can make things happen after the catch. He's just a solid wide receiver.
John, when you first saw just highlights of Ashton Genty back 3 years ago when he was, I think, a sophomore and he popped onto the scene, what was your first thoughts of him? And now that you've seen him, digested everything about him, is it pretty much the same thought or even higher?
It's pretty much the same thought. Well, it's higher because, Boise State has some good running backs, over the years. And, watching him, the thing that I like about him, he's got really good agility in traffic. He's got quick in and out, moves that I like, and he runs with power. Those are two combinations that are really, really hard to find. He's not the most elite Gale Sayers type back. That's always my number one comp for somebody who's got agility in traffic. But he's definitely can make people miss. He can make people miss both, and he can get yards after contact when he's hit. He can bounce off tackles, and he's got some quick footwork that can create a crease that somebody else might not be able to get through.
John, thank you. Appreciate your time. Hope to have you again next week. Thanks for your time. Enjoy the rest of the week.
Okay, thank you.
Jon Cooper, Ourlads.com.